What's up, Instagram? I got you guys on my phone. I got pretty much everybody else here on the camera attached to the computer. But I'm going to stop your scroll. Stop your scroll. I'm going to talk today about the three most significant health issues for women in midlife that can be addressed by health and fitness, fitness and nutrition that we pretty much don't talk about very much when we talk about midlife women. Everything on social media is geared towards what your probably most significant desire is as a woman when you're going through midlife. Obviously, we've got symptoms that you may be experiencing due to being somewhere in the menopause transition, perimenopause to menopause to postmenopause. But in addition to that, you've got the symptoms of your body changing, right? Vasomotor symptoms, night sweats, hot flushes, and the most significant thing that's annoying for women is that they don't feel at home in their bodies, right? All of a sudden they've got this extra weight gain or weight being distributed to other areas of the body where it never has before. And as coaches, we need to be sensitive to the fact that you're going to want to feel better in your own body, and you have the right to want to lose body fat if that's your choice, right? It's not a choice for a coach to make. I know that sometimes on one end of the social media spectrum we can get sort of high and mighty with finger wagging because women want to lose weight. They have a desire to reduce body fat on their own body. It's not for us to choose for you, and we want to push you in the direction of educating you about all the health implications. And that's so much more important when we don't have to live in that body. So I'm going to address three of the major health concerns that you don't see addressed very much on social media because they aren't great selling points. It's not like selling you into get your bikini body back or snatch your waist or any of the stupid ass colloquialisms we hear in regards to women's bodies on social media. But the great thing about this chat that we're about to have is even though I'm going to highlight these very, very serious adult health issues, I'm going to merge it with technique, with the method of aiding those things. And ironically, both things are going to help on both sides. So the stuff that we're going to talk about this morning not only is going to help you with the health implications that you may not even be aware of. Like I'm probably going to share some things that you didn't even know, but it's also going to help you with your aesthetic goals if that's a part of your decision for what you want for your body. I am in no way saying that you need to do something with your body, to please societal expectations and long-standing beauty standards. But I do want to give you both sides of the thing. So three things we need to talk about today. Before I get to that, I've got to do two things. Number one, shout out to the shirt of the day, and it's my shirt. It's the Fitness Jones training shirt. Um, I've been highlighting my colleagues' t-shirts all week as I've been doing these live broadcasts at 8 a.m. every morning this week. I have another one tomorrow to close out the week. Number two, I got to pay the bills because it's my enrollment week. So if you're a woman in midlife who feels frustrated, feel confused by what your body's doing or what it's not doing, if you choose to lose body fat, or if you're just choosing better health and to feel more comfortable and strong and capable in your body, my enrollment week is open until tomorrow. So I'm enrolling 5 women over 30 that want to improve in all areas. You want to build your healthiest relationship with your body and your healthiest body. You want to build your healthiest relationship with food without calorie counting or having to do math every time that you want to eat something. Then this program might be right for you. DM me the word live, LIVE, and we'll have a quick conversation in the DM. See if what I do is a good fit for what you need. In any case, let's get right to it. Excuse me, quick and dirty. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is something called osteopenia. Osteopenia is age-related bone loss. This is something that pretty much starts in your 30s, and is not specific to women. Osteopenia can affect men too. So that age-related bone loss, most people aren't even aware that it's happening, but it starts somewhere around your 30s. If you think back to your grandmother, mama, auntie, abuela, some elder person in your life, or if you've had experience with an elder person in your family falling and breaking a hip, never recovering, et cetera, et cetera. This is what I'm talking about. So from about age 30 on, you're losing the density in your bones. The bones are becoming less and less dense, more and more susceptible to fracture, to breaks, et cetera, et cetera. And this is problematic, obviously, because your skeletal system is where all the action happens in terms of your posture, in terms of having something for your muscles to pull against. And we see our elder people, elder women almost specifically, we see them getting more and more brittle as they age, and the percentages for recovery for elder people after breaking a bone isn't really that great, right? Women specifically, when they get into the menopause spectrum, have an acceleration of bone loss. So now it really takes off. It's much more significant. And it has it because of the withdrawal of estrogen. We see a tendency for that bone loss. Excuse me. We see a tendency for that bone loss to be highly concentrated in the lower spine and in the hips, two dangerous spots to have reduced density in your bone. Now, you can get a bone density scan, a DEXA scan, if there are facilities in your area. You can get a DEXA scan to see what your bone density levels are. But the great news is, and this is why I really want to talk to you, the great news is this is something that's recoverable. There was a time when we thought that once you started to lose bone density, ladies, once you started to lose bone density, there was nothing that could be done about it. I mean, you're just on the road to fragility. That's it. But now we know that through exercise and nutrition, you can not only recover, but you can not only that bone loss and start to increase your density. Here's the method to do it. Here's what we do. And these are the methods that I use with my clients. We want to start to incorporate some jump training, some plyometric training, some impact training. We want to have impact on the bones because when we have that impact, it signals the bones to start to regrow. So when you look at that plyometric training, number one, you've got to be careful that you don't already have a rate of bone loss, a high rate of bone loss. If you've lost bone already, then it's going to be much more problematic for you to recover it, right? For you to do these types of training. So you want to be cleared with your medical professional that you don't already have bone loss, because obviously we don't want you hopping around if you've already lost some bone. It could be problematic. We don't want to cause an injury, for God's sakes. But if you have not had any injury yet, and if you are cleared medically to be able to do this, plyometrics, you only need about 10 minutes about 3 times a week of bounding, leaping, landing. For instance, if you're on a very, very low box or a platform like one of the steps that you can find in most gyms, a low step and hopping down, great movement. A low step and jumping up, great movement. Side to side bounding, something like skaters, if you're familiar with that exercise, side to side, or just jumping side to side with 2 feet. The key here is we need movement in every sort of plane of motion. So you need to jump forward, you need to be able to go backwards, side to side. This is why running in and of itself isn't as good. Well, it's not really good for increasing the bone density over time, which again, we've established you can increase it. You can come back from osteopenia. But we need multiple planes of direction. Starting small, if this is something that you're not used to, if you're particularly athletic, obviously you can go with things like box jumps, single leg hops, et cetera, et cetera. But you only need about 10 minutes of it 3 times a week. Now, there's something else you need to do to support it to prevent your bone loss. You need to support it with food, because another thing that's going to compromise your ability to maintain good, strong bone, another thing that's going to lead you to being feeble and basically glass when it comes to your bone density, is under eating drastically and under eating for a long period of time. Something called low energy availability. And this is where things get tricky for the midlife women, because you probably have a history of getting your results by training hard and eating less, right? You see people on the internet all the time talking about, weight loss is simple. You just move more and eat less. Well, it's not that simple, number one. Number two, for the woman that's in the menopause spectrum transition, that can be very problematic, because when you're operating at a state of low energy availability, you're not getting enough fuel to support the activity that you want to do. You're compromising your body at every twist and turn. And one of the ways that you're going to compromise your body is that's also a leading factor for osteopenia, age related bone loss. So we need to support those bones, ladies, at this time of life. Again, it's accelerating. Your rate of bone loss is accelerating as estrogen starts to fluctuate and eventually withdraw in the menopause spectrum. You're speeding up the rate of bone loss, and having some plan for plyometrics, some jump training, some bounding. Even if you start small, start low in terms of the jumps and increase over time, is going to help you reverse that age-related bone loss. Also, supporting it with enough fuel for your body. And I'm going to talk about fueling your body tomorrow in menopause, like the dangers of under eating and dieting, because you need to know that. But that's the first thing that's a really significant health problem, but you can reverse it with a certain amount of activity. And the great thing is, the same thing that works for increasing your bone density is the same thing that's going to work for most of you ladies in terms of the aesthetics that you want, the body fat reduction, the toning of the muscle. Let's go to the second thing. The second most problematic thing for women in the midlife transition, that perimenopause to postmenopause spectrum, is age-related muscle loss. This is called sarcopenia. And this is the first thing that women who come to me to hire me will mention when I'm asking them questions, when I'm trying to go through a discovery portion of a phone call with them. They will tell me, all of a sudden, I feel squishy overnight. Ren, I went to bed and I had tone. I could feel muscle in places. I woke up and everything felt squishy. This is sarcopenia. This is age-related muscle loss, and it didn't happen overnight. It starts in your 30s. Again, it's something that can affect men too. Men just typically have more muscle mass to begin with, but age-related muscle loss, starting in your 30s, you're losing 4 to 8% of your muscle on your body per decade, right? 4 to 8%. Guess what happens when you get into perimenopause and estrogen starts to fluctuate and eventually withdraw? The rate of muscle loss skyrockets. That increases as well, right? Because estrogen is a big boost to your ability to maintain muscle. Two things really happen when you get in that perimenopausal phase to your muscle. Number one, it starts to withdraw, you start to lose it. Number two, it becomes more difficult for you to synthesize protein and make more muscle. So if you're eating a minimal amount of protein, or you always didn't really eat that much protein, it can be plant-based protein. So ease up, vegans, right? It's okay for it to be plant-based protein. But if you've always been a person that's never really prioritized it, and you make it to this phase of your life, right? The phase where you're going into perimenopause at the very least, your body is not able to absorb the same amount of protein when you take it in, when you eat it. So now you've got the deficiency on both sides of the handle. Both sides of the coin are jacked up because, number one, you're losing muscle at an increased rate. And number two, because you never really prioritized muscle in the first place, and because you can't uptake protein as good as you could before you got into the perimenopausal phase, you're losing muscle at a rapid rate. And this is why women describe to me, athletic women, women who've been sedentary, women who've lifted weights, who always exercise, they'll tell me, Ren, all of a sudden overnight, I felt squishy. Like this isn't my body. Like I lost all my muscle tone. That is sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss, and it accelerates tremendously when you get into the menopause spectrum, the transition from perimenopause to menopause, which is technically a day, to postmenopause, which is your hormonal profile every day of your life after that. How do we attenuate it? How can we work with that? We've got to switch from our protocol of doing, let me rephrase this. Let me ease into this gently. I will never criticize someone for doing exercise. All exercise is great. All exercise counts. I love it. So as I say what I'm about to say, it's not because I want to be critical of the type of exercise that you prefer to do. If you're not on your couch and you get off your ass and you exercise, great job. You're killing it. What I'm about to talk about is what's optimal for dealing with the situation that I just described, sarcopenia. So there's nothing wrong with the exercise you choose if you want to solve this particular problem and not have to deal with it in perpetuity. Then these are the suggestions that we know based on the science. This is what I learned over the course of the 3 different menopause certifications that I've taken over the course of the last year and a half. So we want to strength train. If you're not doing that, it really needs to become a part of your life at this point when it's so difficult to hold on to the muscle that you have. And we want to strength train relatively heavy. I'm going to say the same word twice, but strength and heavy is a relative term, right? So what's heavy for one person is light for another person. But fundamentally, optimally, we want to switch to a protocol where we're doing 3 to 5 exercises per training session with 3 to 5 sets. And if you don't understand the terminology, sets and reps, just feel free to inbox me and ask me a few questions. 3 to 5 exercises selected in a workout routine, in a strength training routine, 3 to 5 sets of those exercises, and 3 to 5 repetitions of the exercise in that set, because we want to lift more into a power protocol for reasons that I'm not going to necessarily go into on this live session, because I talked about it in the previous live session. Your muscle contractions aren't as stiff, firm, and active as they used to be. This is also a function of estrogen withdrawing. It's acting on 2 proteins called actin and myosin, and those 2 proteins sort of latch onto each other in the muscle. Think of them like a zipper, and they sort of zip up the muscle to get a great contraction. So for the woman that's in the framework of peri to postmenopause, you're losing the ability to generate a great muscle contraction. So estrogen used to help you get great muscle contractions and maintain your muscle. Now that it's withdrawing, you've got to use a different methodology. I always use this example when I explain this, as your muscles being your television set, right? Your workout that you have programmed is your remote control for the TV, and estrogen is the batteries in the remote control. I'm going to rephrase that one more time. Your muscles are the TV set, right? The workout plan that you have is your remote control. Estrogen is the batteries that are in the remote. So even if you press the right buttons on the remote control, but the batteries in it aren't working, the TV is not going to respond in the way that you want to. In that case, you would have to get up and go to the TV and press the buttons manually yourself. Well, in this case, with estrogen withdrawing, having that effect on your muscles, you can no longer do it's not as optimal to do your 12 to 25 repetitions or do your body pump class, et cetera, because that's a good remote control when the batteries, when the estrogen is flowing through your system. But as it starts to withdraw, you've got to get up and make the muscle work yourself. You got to press it yourself. So you're doing heavier lifts where within reason and in the context of safety, lifts where on the 4th and 5th repetition, it's a struggle, right? You're lifting at 80% of your 1 rep maximum. So heavier lifts, longer rest periods to allow your central nervous system to recover. You won't feel exhausted like when you're doing a circuit or body pump or something like that. You may not be huffing and puffing. So you may get frustrated that you need to rest for 2 to 3 minutes in between your sets. But what you're allowing is your central nervous system to recover from controlling all of that heavy weight and controlling those muscles. This is a mindset shift for a lot of you. My clients hate it when I introduce it to them. They love it 90, 120 days later when they've started getting results again like they used to get before they get into the perimenopausal phase of their life. So we've got to play with the hormones and the science in a way that connects the 2 things together based on evidence, not based on what we used to do or like to do. So at this point, you want to consume a lot of protein, right? You want to get protein throughout your day because the second thing that's happening with that sarcopenia, age related muscle loss that starts in your 30s and accelerates like a rocket ship when you get into the menopause spectrum. The second thing that's happening here is your body, because of the lack of estrogen, doesn't uptake protein as well as it used to. You are not absorbing protein from the protein that you consume at the same rate. Again, we got that double-edged sword. You're losing muscle more rapidly and you're not able to build muscle as quickly. And if you're barely ever eating any protein, doesn't have to be animal based, can absolutely be plant-based protein. But if you're not ingesting enough protein throughout the day, you can't just get a big shot in the morning and then wait and get a big shot in the evening. You've got to consume it throughout the day. You're going to find yourself feeling fluffier than what's normal for you. Bodies come in range of sizes, shapes, ranges of muscle tone, and you know what normal for you is. Everybody's not a rock hard bodybuilder, and that's okay. No, everybody doesn't need to be, but you'll start feeling, again, the way that my clients describe it to me before we start working together, the way that women describe it to me when we're having conversations on social media, is all of a sudden, Ren, I feel like I got squishy overnight. And you need that muscle. Muscle is your long term declaration of independence, ladies. Muscle is the new 401k, right? Muscle is cardioprotective. We're going to talk about that next in a second. Muscle is going to keep you in the game. It's going to allow you to enjoy your descendants while you're here on earth. It's going to allow you to go places and do things. Muscle is dancing. Muscle is going on a walking tour in Paris on that trip you always dreamed of. Muscle is playing with your grandkids. Muscle is intimacy with your partner. Muscle the life force of everything that you need if you're going to have an enjoyable, sustainable life past your 30s and 40s when you first start losing muscle, if left unattended. But I just gave you the keys to making muscle. And again, the great thing on this technique number two, just like the first technique that I talked about with bone, the great thing about what I'm telling you is it's also an aid in that aesthetics that you want. Again, I don't judge women for wanting to lose weight. That's their decision for their body. I don't make women lose weight either. I don't say you need to lose some weight because oftentimes they don't, and it's none of my business what you do with your body. It's only my business to help you get to the goal that you have chosen for yourself without allowing you to do yourself harm. That's what my job is. But it's not to tell you what to do. So the same thing that's going to work for helping you maintain that precious muscle on your body will also, side perk, help you with the aesthetics. If weight loss, fat loss specifically is a concern of yours, what I'm telling you about this also helps with that. You're just not usually made aware of these two things that I mentioned so far, osteopenia and sarcopenia, and how they both accelerate at this time in a woman's life, in midlife, as estrogen starts to withdraw. The third thing I'm going to talk about is something that's near and dear to my heart because I watched my mother go through it, and that is cardiovascular disease. Now, typically, up until hit that menopause juncture, which may be late 30s for some of you, perimenopause may be late 30s. Menopause may not happen until your late 40s or 50s, and then postmenopause after. But typically, all times before that, men have a much greater risk of cardiovascular disease. You know, it's almost cliche that the midlife man has a heart attack, right? However, for women, once you get into that perimenopause, that menopause spectrum, the rate of cardiovascular incident increases rapidly. My mother had a debilitating stroke at age 60. And back then, I had no concept of exercise and wellness on the level that I do now. I didn't even go to school for this stuff originally. I'm a business grad. So, but later on in life, I got into this business and now have expertise in it. But 1 in 3 women is going to die from cardiovascular incident. I'm going to repeat that and I'm going to slow it down because I think I glossed over it. 1 out of every 3 women on this planet will die because of a cardiovascular incident. 1 out of 3. Think about 2 friends. I'll do it like they do it in university, like that. Look to the left, look to the right. one of you won't be here by the end of the semester type thing, look to the left, look to the right. One of you won't be here by the end of your 40s or 50s. 1 in 3 women, the number one killer of women across the planet is cardiovascular disease. And it's interesting because there's so much fear, particularly in this space of incident of breast cancer, right? It's almost the only conversation that women have when they're talking about menopausal hormone therapy. Yet the bigger problem that we don't talk about nearly as much is cardiovascular disease. Why, Ren? Because estrogen is cardioprotective. The withdrawal of estrogen is removing the shield of armor in protecting your cardiovascular system a little bit at a time. What we have to understand about estrogen is that for women, it's a super juice, it's a superpower. Estrogen receptors run through nearly every system in a woman's body. And what we know from the science and study of this is that if a tissue or a part of your body has a receptor for a specific hormone, then that hormone is key in the adequate performance of that tissue or part of your body. And we don't talk about the menopause spectrum enough, and there's not enough information out there that talks about how it correlates to your actual health and longevity. And we're not talking so much about lifespan, we're talking about health span. Because my mother had a relatively normal lifespan. She lived to 77 years old. Her health span stopped 17 years prior to that at 60 when she had that stroke. So when we're talking about health span and versus lifespan, we don't talk adequately about this. And almost the only conversation you'll see on the social media context from your favorite fitfluencer is menopause and cellulite and menopause belly and getting back your body and snatching your waist. And I understand that because everyone deserves to feel comfortable in their own body. But then there's another part of me that wants to say that's high school bullshit, right? Because if you're not here, it doesn't matter. My mother died before I turned 40. As a matter of fact, when I started studying for my certifications to become a health professional, my mother was dying. She died 17 days before I took my initial exam to become an NASM certified trainer in 2014. She passed on February 21st. First, I took my exam like early March, second week in March, passed it, cried all the way home. And then I became a coach. But we've got to be mindful of the things that we do talk about and we don't talk about. Nothing wrong with talking about weight loss and fat loss and getting in shape and bikini bodies and fit over 40 and fit over 60 and this is 61 and prancing for the nothing wrong with that. I love it. It's entertaining. It's inspirational. Also, we have the adult responsibility of talking about the things that are jeopardizing your health. Because looking good in a casket isn't a goal for me, right? Not early in my life, at least. So back to cardiovascular disease. So what can we do, Ren? Strength training is a great asset in helping you deal with lowering the rate of cardiovascular disease. Obviously, cardiovascular exercise. And in this case, we want to be particularly polarizing with our cardio. And what I mean is we want to be on one extreme or the other. What we know is that for most women, the middle of the road sweaty cardio session, although it's great exercise and it makes you feel good, may not be the best option for attenuating some of the symptoms that we see in the menopause spectrum. And when I'm working with my clients, I have them lean in two extreme directions. Either we are working very, very short term, high intensity or sprint intensity training, right? No more than 20 minutes with a high interval and a low interval. For instance, sprint interval training. I might have my clients get on a cycle, bike, indoor bike, go as fast as they can for 15 or 20 seconds. I mean, pedaling for your life, and then go as easy as possible for a minute and a half or 2 minutes to fully recover so you can jump right back into that 15-second hyper speed cycle, sprinting on the cycle effectively, and repeating that pattern for 20 minutes. with a 5 minute warm up at the beginning, a 5 minute cool down at the end, we know that that produces some changes in your rate of insulin response. We know that that produces some changes in your cognitive function, releases something called BDNF, brain derived neurotrophic factor, that helps with cognition, that menopause brain that you get. Like, there's all sorts of techniques to attenuate these symptoms, the symptomology that you see as you're going through this transition. And every woman has wildly different symptoms and a wildly different experience. From menopause is awesome to, I don't know myself, I don't understand myself, I threaten to kill my husband 3 times this week, or my same sex spouse partner. My children are afraid of me. I can't get anything to work in terms of my exercise. Like, there's a wide spectrum of experiences here, but there are some things that the science tells us are beneficial. So the things that we want to stave off that are very, very, very serious health concerns as we get into this stage of life. And number one, that osteopenia, age-related bone loss that starts in your 30s, accelerates as you get into the menopause spectrum, and can put you in a position where you're brittle at an old age. And the percentages of recovery for a broken hip, fractured leg, et cetera, are not great for women in their later years. You can stave that off with the technique that I mentioned first. Number two, sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss. And again, this is why you may have seen that mama or grandma or grandmother or G mama or big mama or abuela, while they were feeble, while they needed someone to help them on and off of the toilet or in and out of the bathtub or up the steps, right? That's muscle loss. That's sarcopenia left unchecked. But we just talked about the fact that strength training can attenuate that and even reverse it, if we know the type of strength training to do and if we're well fed, well fueled. This is another reason why I don't enjoy fasted training for women in midlife. It's counterproductive to all these health issues we talked about. But I think I'll talk about that tomorrow. And then the third thing is that increased risk of cardiovascular disease, and the strength training and the leaping, bounding training, the plyometrics that I talked about earlier, great sleep, stress management techniques, great nutritional techniques, eating across a spread of vegetables and fruits. All of these things will help attenuate that risk of cardiovascular disease. A woman in postmenopause has the same risk of cardiovascular incident as a 70-year-old male, right? So we've got to be mindful of these things. And again, cardiovascular disease, the number one killer of women around the world. Poor sleep exacerbates it. Smoking makes it worse. Lack of strength training makes it worse. Lack of exercise generally makes it worse. Stress makes it worse. And these are all the things that we see. Alcohol. These are all the things that we see women intersecting with in that midlife phase. So that's my quick and dirty live for this beautiful Saturday morning in Charlotte, North Carolina. My name is Ren Jones. I'm certified personal trainer, certified corrective exercise specialist, certified level 1 and level 2 nutrition coach, certified women's coaching specialist through the organization Girls Gone Strong. Again, shout out to them and shout out to Molly. And I've got 3 different certifications for menopause, health, and fitness, one through Girls Gone Strong, one through MedFit, Dr. Carla G, and I've gone through the Menopause 2.0 certification course through Dr. Stacy Sims, which was phenomenal. So if you need a menopause-informed nutrition and exercise and injury prevention coach, it's your Walmart right here. I've got everything on all the aisles are stocked for your shopping pleasure. I'm saying that because I'm enrolling for one more day this week. At least 5 women over 30 who want to feel comfortable and at home in their body again, right? Who want to build their healthiest body based on the hormones that are coursing through their veins now, and who want to build the best relationship with their body and relationship with food without calorie counting, without macronutrient counting, without weighing or measuring food in containers. Nothing wrong with those things. It's just not what I do. It's not practical for the busy women I serve, and without spending hours and hours in the gym doing things that used to work that no longer work with your current hormonal profile. If that sounds like something that you're interested in, DM me the word live, LIVE. We'll see if what I do is a great fit for you. And until next, oh, and that enrollment ends Sunday. All enrollment cuts off Sunday. Until next time, ladies, let's keep it simple. Thank you for watching.